Hey everybody, it's Dr. Karen, and today I wanted to share a little bit about what is working right now in the present time as I'm recording this video for spelling instruction. So obviously this is January 2021. So we are still in the pandemic. We are still doing a lot of remote learning. So that means that if you have had kids on your caseload who were struggling before, they have had to go almost a year with an interesting setup. We'll just say that. So, obviously, now because kids are having to do a lot online, teachers are super stressed. If you have students on your caseload, or if you have your own children who need a little bit of extra help, it's harder than it ever has been for them to get that help, which means that parents and doing some extra work on the side of regular school has become more important than ever. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share what I am actually doing with my own middle schooler, with my stepdaughter, who is, she's in sixth grade, she's 11. And the things that I'm going to share with you come from the framework that I use in my program Language Therapy Advanced, which if you're watching this video on YouTube, the link to the presentation for some of the resources I'm going to mention in this video will be below the video in the description, or if you're watching on the blog. And if you're watching on Facebook, it'll be in the description of the actual post. So the screen that you're seeing now is a Google Classroom I have set up. And what specifically happened with my stepdaughter is that she doesn't get special education services or anything like that, but spelling's always been an area where we've had to pay attention, do some work, just things like grammar, attention to details. She gets the gist and the big picture of things, but details are something that we've got to be working on. But you probably have some kids on your caseload who sometimes when they don't get the details, like when they don't get the grammar and the syntax and the vocabulary, then the comprehension starts to slip and they have a hard time understanding what they're reading, which means that written language is really hard. It takes them really long time to read and write something. So it can be a challenge. And then a lot of times when that happens, because of the cognitive load required to decode and spell, there's a breakdown at that big picture level. Those comprehension skills start to break down. So this kind of work can be important for actually working on spelling and vocabulary, but also it can build comprehension as well. So not some kids for some reason are able to put those comprehension skills together, even if they don't have great attention to detail. But a lot of kids, especially the ones on your caseload, if you're working with kids with language processing issues, a lot of times that actually does lead to comprehension breakdowns, which is why I teach the framework that I do in my program. So I'm going to just share some things that I've been doing on the side of what she's been doing at school. And I share this because if you have a child and you are wanting them to do some extra work outside of school, just because school is kind of interesting right now, and I know that the teachers are doing their best, but it's really hard, and it's not what it normally is. So if you're wanting to give your kids something on the side to work on just to make sure that they don't fall behind, this can be helpful for that when it comes to spelling and vocabulary. And then also, if you are thinking of things that you could do for your own clients to give to your parents, something that's simple, that doesn't take a lot of time, that could reinforce what you're doing in therapy, this is a great framework that you can use. So, how I have it set up, the system that I have with my stepdaughter is that we just have a Google Classroom set up. This was actually her idea. I was giving her these printout worksheets and creating things. I would just write things down on a piece of notebook paper. We were doing that over the summer. And she's like, why don't you just do Google Classroom? That's what all my other teachers do. So I said, okay, good idea. So I set up a Google Classroom and I just give her these daily assignments. We call them word study assignments. That's really what I teach in Language Therapy Advanced Foundations. And we do these daily assignments. Usually we do them about, I'd say 4 to 5 times a week when when school's actually in session. And sometimes I'll give her one of these activities on, let's say, Monday, then she'll complete it, and then I'll give her some corrections and revisions. And then the assignment for Tuesday is to do the corrections and revisions. And so sometimes we might do that. So I'll give her 2 assignments. So Monday will be do the assignment, Tuesday will be revision, Wednesday will be assignment, Thursday will be revision, and then Friday I might give her another assignment as well, or we might do something together that's not on the computer, or I might just say, do some extra reading today or something like that. Or, you could give an additional assignment and just make sure that I could do it with her so that she doesn't have any revisions or something like that. So that's the format that we use, but it's set up in a Google Classroom. I aim for it to take about 10-15 minutes a day. It took a little bit longer at the beginning, and we did have some trial and error with how long it took her. But that's about where we are now. And she is starting to become more aware of just paying attention to how words are spelled. So first, I'm just going to show you how I have it set up. If you haven't set up a Google Classroom before, this is just in Google Suite. So if you have a Gmail address, you have access to this. You're just going to go over here and click Create Class, and then you can set things up. So I've already got some classes set up here. This one right here is the one that I have set up for her, and it's just she's the individual student here. If you set up a classroom for your students, let's say that you've got a caseload of 60 students, or maybe you probably don't necessarily want to do this with all your students. Let's say that you have 20 students and you want to do certain assignments. You can have them all in your classroom, and then you can, when you create assignments, assign it to specific students if you don't want all students to have the same thing. And it's the way that I do it is with Google Slides. So if you wanted to have kind of a master Google slide and then you just customize it for specific cases, you can do that as well. So you're not literally, printing and laminating a million things and starting from scratch. That's a good thing about using Google Slides and electronic documents. So if you go here, this is how I have it set up. And literally it's just a whole bunch of word study assignments that I give her. The way that I have her do it is super basic. Again, I don't use any super fancy apps, just stuff I have available to me. You can go over here, you can click create, and you can create, there's a bunch of other features here as well. I just use the assignment feature right now for this. Create assignment, you just, add your title here, add the instructions, and then what I do is I click create, and then I just attach some Google Slides with the presentation that she has to fill out. And then I just put over here, put a due date. And then when I'm done, you can click assign. And then let me go back out here to, let me see one that she submitted. Okay, so let me go into here. Right here, you can see where it's been turned in. You do sometimes have to coach kids on how to attach the file the right way. You do also have to make sure that they know how to, if you have a slide presentation for multiple kids, you have to make sure that they go file, make a copy, and save it on their own computer or in their own Google Drive, and then upload it instead of just editing this one, because otherwise everybody will see their edits. But you can just go over here, and then if you click on this, let me see if she did this one right. Normally, if it's turned in correctly, so this is one of the ones where she didn't actually attach a file. Normally, there'll be a file down here, and they can click attach and just upload their assignment, and then you can click on it, and you can see their answers right there. So that's where you go for that. Let me go to the one that we just did the other day. Okay, so yeah, here it is. For the one that we did this week, again, she made a copy of it and uploaded it here, and I can click and I can see it. So this is the one that she just did this morning, actually. And then I can just go through and and take a look at what she's done. And then a lot of times I'll just go over here and click and make some comments. And then that is how I give her feedback. Okay, so let me just show you the actual content of some of the presentations that I have her do. So with the Word Study Toolkit, what it is a document with, or it's a download with a whole bunch of different morphemes. And so what I started off with doing for her was I would just give her a bunch of words with a specific morphological pattern. So usually a prefix, a suffix, some kind of an affix that we were studying. And then I would give her words with that affix used a bunch of different ways. And then I would have her manipulate the words. I'd have her write a definition. I'd have her use the word in a sentence. So we were practicing it from multiple angles. And then we kind of mix and matched so that she could understand that was a specific part of a word that she had to pay attention to, because the problem that we were having is that she would spell words phonetically. So she's in 6th grade, and now you can't really get away with just spelling words phonetically. It might make logical sense, but it's not going to be the correct spelling. There are things that we have to take into account when it comes to morphology that are going to be relevant, that different word patterns that you're going to have to know in order to spell words correctly and in order to be able to decode quickly and do it efficiently in order to be able to be a good speller. So phonology is relevant, but it's not the only thing that we need to know. So let me go in here, see if I can find 12.6 was a good one, but let's check out what we did on 12.4. Here we go. Okay, so here is an example of an assignment that I gave her. So how I would do it, and this is just one way that you can use this Word Study Toolkit, is that you can pick one affix. So it can be, prefix, suffix, whichever part, again, you can kind of jump around from whether you're using prefixes or suffixes. I always let her know what it is. But for this particular day, the morpheme that we're looking at is the morpheme sign. And then I put this at the top of the slide so that she knows to pay attention to that. And then what I would give is this right here. And then all of these down here are blank, and she has to fill them in. So this is already filled in, and this is my feedback. So, and I think she actually went in and I gave this feedback, and this is her revision. So the target word was resign, and she had to break it down into the parts. So there's two morphemes here, re and sign. And again, notice that resign, it changes the pronunciation of some of the sounds. So that's why it's important to look at the morphemes and not just how you pronounce. And then she had to give a definition. And so resign, to quit something, and then what is the word's class? So she didn't get that right. She put noun, and so this is my feedback here. I just gave her a comment and just said try again. And then here, this one actually, so this is how she used it in a sentence. So she actually did use it correctly in context as a verb, but she did not label it correctly. So this is how I like to work on parts of speech. I like to embed it in other types of instruction because, again, it's if you take it out of context, there's a lot of words, especially these more difficult words that can be nouns or verbs, depending on the context, or adjectives, or another thing that I've noticed that sometimes she does is that she won't realize that she'll change the form. Like she'll add an S, she'll add an ing, And I'll usually say like, good job, you used this word and you added a different ending to it to make it to change the verb tense, but let's see if you can use it in the form that I gave you. So we do talk about that as well, and that's some feedback I give her. So how basically the format for this particular assignment is that I just give her the target word and it has sign in it. So here's the next one. It was design. So again, this was not filled out. And all she just had to fill in breakdown, definition, words, class, and design. So again, design is another example. I put the word that could be a noun or a verb. So she used it as a noun here, and then here she did use it as a noun. Sometimes she might use it differently than what she says up here in the definition. So that's something that I always make sure that she does. Is this all lining up? Does your definition and the word class go with how you use it in a sentence? And then a lot of times here, she used it correctly, but I'll say, this is good, but give me a little bit more. So how I would do it is that I might give her 3 or 4 different words with that form in it. And then at the end, sometimes what I'll do is that I'll just give her, here are some other examples of words that I've given her. Sometimes I'll just give her a slide with just a whole bunch of other words, and I won't make her do the whole breakdown, but I'll just have her do some additional words that have this form in it. I have on some days given her 2 different morphemes to study. We've played around with that to see how long it takes her, because I don't want her sitting there for 40 minutes doing extra work. I just want this to be a quick 10-minute thing because, middle school, they have other work, and you don't want this to be something that takes too long because that's just a lot. Again, interesting here. This is an example of, she used add the S at the end. So she did use it as a noun. She forgot to put the word class here, but she changed the form of it. So that happens sometimes. And that's just another skill where you can just give that feedback of, good job, but let's try to use it the way that I put it up here. Another thing that you can do at the end here is take note of all the different morphemes that you've been studying, and then, have the pattern of the day, and then maybe have some review here of some different words that you've done, and then just have them break down the words like this. I like to do this. I like to have her break down and look at all the different parts of the word, but there are ways that you can do this as well, where you do it from a different angle, where, for example, you might give different parts of the words and have them put them together, or give them words, or give them a morpheme and say, give me some words that have this morpheme. So she would have to come up with resign, assignment, signature, and some words like that. So that's a different variation that you can use. These are all things that you can do with the Word Study Toolkit. And again, remember the Word Study Toolkit, that is one of the pieces of the framework that I teach in Language Therapy Advanced, and I do share that whole framework in my online presentation. So we're just really diving into one piece right here, and just going into one specific area, the area of morphology, orthography, and we are addressing a little bit of phonology, especially if we're working on saying these words out loud. So this is one thing that I have been doing right now that, number one, obviously is in line with what kids need as far as what works for vocabulary and spelling instruction, but also is very conducive to what's going on in the world right now. So if you're interested in checking out the Word Study Toolkit, check out the link in the description of this video. And if you're interested in learning in the entire framework for language therapy, so not just morphology and orthography, but also the other components that I use in my language therapy system, then check out those links. In the description, there is a link to that online presentation that you can sign up for. Thanks so much and have a great day.